There was like a big break, and then there was a huge break. The big break was I was introduced to a man named Michael Kamen, who had a band called the New York Rock Ensemble at the time, who later years went on to become a very big movie soundtrack composer. He met David Bowie in 1974, right after Mick Ronson had left the band. And I had been like doing some work for Michael, like playing guitar in his band, and when he would do some small tours. And he made the introduction to Bowie, and that precipitated the audition I did for David Bowie.
And then obviously you that relationship evolved, and that was very fruitful for a few years.
With David Bowie, it's been on and off since 1974, all the way up to the last tour that he did a couple of years ago. With some dead spots in there. Either, me being somewhere else, or him being somewhere else, or me being busy, or him deciding he wanted a different kind of a band, but always ended up every so often coming back in and I've been in and out of that band for 30 years. It's a long time.
Does it feel like you're getting into a pair of old shoes every time you get back on the gig with him?
Oh yeah. Once you do something with somebody like that enough times, and you know why you're there, he knows why he wants you there, and it's just a piece of cake. Very easy.
You both know what each other's strengths are and what each other's looking for. It's almost
when David puts together a band, he puts together a band based on certain personalities and certain artistic views and certain styles of playing that fit like a puzzle. If you notice, most of the of Bowie band members, not most of them, almost everyone I know, I think, are all artists in their own right as well. I have a specific job. Jerry Lennon, the other guitar player in the band, he's got a specific thing, and you just know what that is. I mean, I've been doing it on and off with David so long that it's just, I know why I'm there. It makes it way easier.
Bowie aside, you've obviously worked with some other artists of note, shall we say.
As far as other artists I've worked with, and the gig of all time, I spent 3 months in the studio with John Lennon in 1980, and which was a very surreal experience because, like I said, even before the Stones, because the Beatles were on TV before the Stones were, so my first exposure to this whole new version of the rock and roll insanity was the Beatles. So getting to play in the studio with John on a couple of his albums was a pretty intense experience, to say the least. It was great because he was just I didn't get let down. Sometimes you meet people that you admire and you meet them and they're assholes. And he was a wonderful man. He was great. He was fun. We had a ball. We made some great music.
If somebody wanted to get a taste of what you did with these guys, what would be the key tracks or records to listen to?
Some of the Bowie stuff, my favorite Bowie stuff is more of the adventurous stuff, which would be on Station to Station, like this title track, and Stay, which is also on that record. And on the last album, Reality, there's a couple of tracks on there, including the title track. With John, with Lennon, they're actually re-releasing Double Fantasy sometime this year in another form, which is going to be way cool. And on that one, there's a lot of stuff I like on that one and on Milk and Honey. I'm Losing You probably comes to mind first on Double Fantasy, and I think Stepping Out and Nobody Told Me on Milk and Honey.
Was it the experience of being in the studio and recording these tunes, or was it more so as a listener just sitting back and going, wow, that's a great tune, whether you played on it or not?
At the time I recorded it, it was the experience that was really ruling the day. I liked all the songs, no doubt about that right out of the gate, but it was the experience of being there while the song was being put together, because John would just come in and bang out a few chords, and and we would just pick it up and go from there. So it was the whole experience of having, and there was a whole band of guys in the room playing at the same time. What a novel concept. But it was a riot. We had a really good time. It was a very fun record to do. Working on Yoko stuff was great as well, because what we were doing is on Double Fantasy, if you listen to the record, every other track, John, Yoko. And Yoko's stuff was pretty out there. But I got to do things on her stuff that I could only like. I couldn't play station to station style guitar on the John Lennon tracks, but I could play that on Yoko's tracks. So I got to do both of what I like to do, the real rootsy rock and roll stuff, and then I got to do some of the out there business on her stuff.
Best favorite gig of all time?
Best favorite gig of all time is the David Bowie tour. Pick a gig.
Every night?
Every night, yeah.
Where do people keep up with you on the web?
On the web to keep up with me, probably, I hate to admit it, would be Facebook. There's also a MySpace page. There'll be a new earlslick.com in the fall when I get around to it. I'm not really big on sitting there. And if you do go on my Facebook, and you leave me a message, I probably won't answer it. So don't get offended.